Hello everyone, welcome. We're just going to start with the land acknowledgement.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Exploring COIL, Building Global Classrooms Through Online Collaboration. I would like to acknowledge before we start that the lands on which Memorial University's campuses are situated are in the traditional territories of diverse Indigenous groups, and we acknowledge with respect the diverse histories and cultures of the Beothuk, Mi'kmaq, Innu, and Inuit of this province.
Welcome everybody to Exploring COIL, Building Global Classrooms Through Online Collaboration. Today we have three presenters who are going to give us an interesting take on teaching in the classroom. I'm going to pass it over to Ilgin. First of all, it's Dr. Sonia Knotskin. Is that correct, Sonia? Okay, and then we have Chidilo Ezemwa and Elgin Aksoy.
Hello everyone, thanks Darlene, and thank you everyone for being here today. I'll start by giving a brief overview of the session and what we'll be covering before we get underway. So we'll begin with Sonia today, who will offer a broad institutional perspective on COIL. She will first explain what COIL is and how it fits within the larger framework of virtual exchange and global learning. Then she'll discuss how this approach benefits students, instructors, and the institution as a whole, and how these benefits align with Memorial's strategic priorities. Next, I will move into the practical side of things, outlining how COIL can be implemented, the role of the Internationalization Office, what has been accomplished so far, and what opportunities are available moving forward. Finally, Chinelo will share her first-hand experience regarding her recent COIL partnership with Fluminense Federal University. She'll talk about how she first learned about COIL, how the Internationalization Office supported her through the process, and how the collaboration has been developing so far. So without further ado, I would like to leave the floor to Sonia.
Welcome, everyone. I'm really excited that I was invited to talk to you today about COIL. I'm just back from a international education conference that was held in Latin America, and it's amazing to me to see how most sessions bring in some aspect of COIL just because of the context. I also noted that conversations about SDGs were also very common there, and I don't see that as much in the North American context of international education. So again, really happy to be here today to talk to you about collaborative online international learning. So at Memorial and globally, COIL is used as a virtual exchange model. It's embedded directly into existing courses, usually project-based. This is really important because one of the big difficulties that we have with student exchanges is getting accepted into the other institution and the transfer credit pieces like that. So COIL works really between professors, as we'll learn a little bit later on with the exchange that Memorial has with UFI in Niterói in Brazil. And so that project-based piece means that my students would work with students in another country on a particular project, and I would grade my students' work, and my partner overseas would grade their students' work. So there's not that need to get the registrar's office involved in this at all in that way. It can be just between professors and having your students work together on projects. Students use a number of digital tools. What I heard last week is that a lot use WhatsApp. I mean, that's really common globally. And it can promote internationalization at home, so opportunities for students to learn international perspectives without leaving Canada. Next slide. The benefits for students, obviously academic and global learning, so they gain international perspectives. They compare global approaches to shared challenges. I heard last week about an example of a business professor that was collaborating with partner in South Africa to look at customer surveys. And so how the students would survey customers in the different countries. And then if you want to grow your business in another country, what are the things that are important to measure? So the students were learning those pieces just, through that simple project that they worked on together. It strengthens the intercultural communication, and it also can strengthen collaboration skills. It provides opportunity as well for personal and professional growth, so building global confidence, building empathy and understanding, and it can expand from a very pragmatic view, expand student networks and expand their ability to be ready for a global career. The benefits for instructors, because that's really important to us all. It can foster deeper and more diverse engagement with course or research topics. It can facilitate international connections and networking. It can develop teaching experiences and a teaching experience in an international context. And one of the most important pieces that came out of a talk that I went to last week, which was between some Quebec universities and some Latin American partners, one of the professors just talked about how he'd been teaching his course for many years, and he just lost the ability to imagine new ways of making it interesting for himself, let alone for his students. So it can help energize courses that maybe need some invigoration. The institutional and budget benefits, it can make international learning accessible to all students, not just those that can afford or can get the visa to go abroad. It can also impact budget and sustainability, so it's cost effective, it avoids the travel and accommodation costs, it's scalable, it can be repeatable with low ongoing costs, and obviously environmentally friendly with a low carbon footprint. It aligns as well with Memorial's strategic priorities, so it expands equitable global learning opportunities and reciprocal global learning opportunities. I've noticed in my many years at Memorial that we receive quite a few students from overseas, in particular under a lot of the Canadian government programs, like they have special programs for Southeast Asia and for Latin America and the Caribbean. But we were receiving students, but we have a challenge in sending students to those countries. It's not as, it's more difficult, it's more challenging. If someone is going on their very first time abroad and they're going to the global south, they might experience a lot more challenges. And so it doesn't tend to, and Canadians in general just don't seem to have a huge appetite in going to study abroad. Work abroad is a different thing, but studying abroad seems to be a challenge. So it allows us to have more reciprocity with our partners. They would often ask me, we've sent you, 2 or 3 students a year, but we have yet to receive one of yours. So this would be one way to kind of address that lack of reciprocity. It sustains sustainability and strengthens civic awareness. It can develop the 21st century skills that we're looking for in our students, so collaboration, digital fluency, communication, advancing inclusion and intercultural competence. And it does support quality education, climate action, and partnerships from the SDG UN goals. About 10 years ago, I brought John Rubin in. So he was a professor in New York City who developed the collaborative online international model. He was actually a theater professor and developed both theater and I think worked in film as well. And he did a Fulbright scholarship abroad and realized that he would love for his students back in New York to be able to connect with the students that he worked with. I believe it was in Poland or Ukraine. And so he really developed the model and then began to go around training universities in it. We brought him to Memorial about 10 years ago. Various things, we struggled to get it off the ground, but we did finally get funding to be able to do a better job, and to be able to talk about it a bit more broadly as we are today here at Memorial. It can foster longer-term international partnerships, integrate COIL modules into high enrollment undergraduate courses would be a great thing. Tracking impact through student engagement and learning outcomes, also really a key aspect of moving forward, gaining funding, things like that. So in summary, COIL is cost-effective, global learning, provides a sustainable model for international education. It can enhance student global competence, strengthen institutional collaboration, and it reflects Memorial's commitment to inclusive, sustainable education.
Thanks, Sonia, for that wonderful overview. So now I'll take you on a little tour of what the COIL process actually looks like, how we move from forming partnerships to developing the curriculum and assessing outcomes. And this process can be thought of as unfolding in 3 stages. The first is developing faculty and building partnerships. Second is co-designing the course and using technology. And third is assessing what students actually learn from it at all. So regarding faculty development and partnerships, every COIL project starts with at least 2 instructors from different parts of the world, thinking, hey, our courses might connect. And so the starting point is always finding and building a genuine partnership between instructors from different parts of the world. And faculty development plays a key role here because most instructors are not or do not have experience in this kind of virtual international collaboration. But I'll talk more about this in a bit. But once a partnership is established, we encourage both instructors to get to know each other's teaching contexts, including their students, their language proficiency levels, classroom cultures, schedules, or institutional objectives. From there, partners begin co-designing their curricula. And the focus is not simply to add a virtual component, but to jointly develop synchronous taught courses or asynchronous recorded courses and assignments and learning activities that engage students from both institutions in meaningful ways. So for example, a COIL partnership between a business course at Memorial and in Brazil might have students compare regional sustainability practices, or a philosophy course might explore ethical issues across cultural contexts. And once the partnership feels solid, the next step is to bring the course to life. And sometimes it is better to start small, maybe a 2-week module inside an existing course rather than redesigning the whole course might be a good idea. And you can always expand later once you see how that works out. And the project might involve synchronous or asynchronous lectures, group activities, group projects, group assignments. Then the partners choose which tools would best support their students in this journey. And we don't need any fancy new software. We just need the right combination of accessible platforms and emphasis on accessible here. The commonly used tools include Padlet. It's great for visual introductions, tracking the COIL module, and cultural sharing. Through Padlet, students can share their hobbies, photos of their hometowns or favorite foods, fish and chips with extra gravy and dressing, etc. Zoom or Google Meets are good for synchronous discussions and presentations. Both instructors can use them for lecturing, and students can use them for group activities, projects, or assignments. Like Sonia has just mentioned, WhatsApp is very common worldwide for informal chats and group coordination, both for instructors and students again. And this is often where the real friendships develop. Google Workspace, so docs, slides, sheets, these are again accessible tools for joint assignments and project collaboration. And we also recommend shared calendars for helping everyone to stay on track, especially when you're coordinating between Newfoundland and, say, Japan, which adds extra bit of scheduling support. So the golden rule here is technology should serve the pedagogy and not the other way around. Next, assessment and reflection. So a variety of assessment approaches can be used. One of the effective approaches is the pre- and post-reflection surveys. These help both students and instructors measure changes in attitudes, awareness, communication, and in general the changes in their skills over the course of the collaboration. Another is intercultural collaboration rubrics. These are structured criteria that evaluate how well students communicate, adapt, and work across cultural differences. For group work, team-based project evaluations are beneficial. These can include peer evaluation so that students reflect on their and each other's contributions. And ultimately, assessment in COIL aims to capture the transformative potential of international collaboration. So, how does the Internationalization Office support COIL initiatives at Memorial, and what do we offer, what to keep in mind when getting started? We begin by introducing COIL to instructors, guide them through the process, make them aware of potential challenges and considerations, and assist them in identifying and connecting with suitable international partners. Some challenges and considerations include mismatched calendars. North American academic terms usually do not overlap with other parts of the world. Spring forward and fall back time changes mess up scheduled meetings. Also, the half-hour difference in NL time doesn't help with that. Linguistic challenges, even, for example, Sonia mentioned to me before, between Quebec and Tunisia make it difficult. We also recommend support from academic departments and other admin support, CITL for instance, for instructional design and tech support, so not just the Internationalization Office. For intercultural training, the ideal is for professors to meet in person in order to develop relationships, but unfortunately MAN doesn't have the budget for that, so it can be at a conference or some other event that the instructors meet and get to know each other more. A good way moving forward would be to create an on-campus community of practice, and maybe CITL could help with that. Next, we help with connecting instructors who share overlapping interests or teaching in similar course topics. And for this purpose, we search for partners through two main organizations, one of which is SUNY COIL Center and the other COIL Connect. There are over 500 institutions from all over the world in these networks, and Latin American institutions in particular have a significant participation in COIL projects. Additionally, MAN has its own networks through UArctic and MOUs with a few hundred universities. So we can help you with finding partners if you're interested in COIL. We also provide guidance on selecting the most appropriate tools for each COIL partnership, since every collaboration will have different needs. We offer support for designing effective assessment approaches. We share examples of past COIL projects, and now we can share examples from Chinello's project with Fluminense Federal University, showcasing what has worked well in different disciplines and in different contexts. And one additional point I'd like to emphasize after our experience with Fluminense Federal University in Chinello's project, I have come to realize that the partnering institutions already have extensive experience with COIL, and they know much better than us. So if you end up partnering with an experienced institution at COIL, they will most likely have already established practices and ready-made frameworks that will make the process much smoother. So don't be afraid. Finally, I'd like to introduce some useful I/O resources that we have worked out in the past year. You can visit the COIL webpage on the I/O website. You can read the Reimagining Learning Abroad article in MAN Gazette that was published about a year ago. There's the COIL interest survey if you'd like to fill out, so we can gauge interest in developing collaborative online international learning projects at Memorial. Also, we can schedule an information session with COIL coordinators if you're interested, or you can simply contact us at goabroad@man.ca. There is also a COIL Design Brightspace course that I started last year, but couldn't continue due to budget constraints. The idea of this is to offer instructors a structured, self-guided way to explore COIL potentials. If you meet with us, we also give some COIL guidebooks and headsets as a little present. And that's about it. Thanks for being with me. That's a brief overview of the COIL process. I'll now hand it over to Demo to share her first-hand experience with COIL partnership.
Thank you so much, Ilgin. I'll start by introducing myself. Am I loud enough? I'm so sorry, I'm at this point where I'm still trying to get used to using my glasses, and I forgot to bring it out, so I'll be squinting on my notes. So my name is Chinelo. I am in the English department in the Faculty of Humanities and Social Sciences. I'm actually really new at MON. I started teaching at MON in January, still getting used to the idea of calling it MON and not Memorial. So I saw the information about COIL, I think it was in the university newsletter, newsline, something. And at that point, I was at the point where I was thinking about, and I know I'd read news about the reduction in numbers of international students. My work closely embraces collaboration, community engagement, international engagement. Right now I'm teaching contemporary African Canadian studies. I also do a lot of work in Black and African feminist studies, and as well as missionary colonial histories. So you can imagine at that point when I hear the government say, oh, they're going to reduce numbers of international students, the nature of my work, I started to think, how do I engage with people outside of here, beyond my immediate environment? And then I saw COIL, and I think I remembered writing an email to Ilgin, and he responded quite promptly. And in my mind, I'd read some of the information about it, but I imagined there would be some financial concerns, and I was already trying to figure out how do I get funding for this. And when I met with Ilgin, he told me, you don't have to spend anything at all. And I thought, okay, are you, like, is it for real? He said, and even the universities overseas, do they have to make any financial commitment? What about the students? And I was really concerned about that. And he told me, no, that they didn't have to. And to be honest, Ilgin, even after we had that conversation, I kept thinking, yeah, maybe at some point they're going to spring it on me, and then I find that the students do indeed have to pay something. But honestly, the case has been that I think it's been smoother than I expected, and I probably has seen that because I had a lot of concerns going back and forth with questions, even about this session, am I ready to do it? But like one of the things he talked about in his presentation, Ilgin, was the fact that sometimes, at that point at the beginning, I was imagining designing a whole new course, which I looked forward to, but then I was worried about the time. Did I have the time to do that? But eventually when he came to me, he helped me to seek for the partners, the International University in Brazil. When we met with them, I realized that we could actually start with what I had. And at that point, as I had two courses that they had shown interest in. One of it is 1090 here. It's the critical writing and reading course hosted by the English department here at MON. And then the other one is contemporary African Canadian literature. So we set out thinking that we would do the COIL with that writing course because something I thought would be global. I assumed that students outside of here would be interested in how people do academic writing here and the idea of critical reading and writing itself. But after we had the first meeting, I realized that the people in Brazil, and Ilgin is right with that, they already have a lot more experience in this. So what they said to me was they actually preferred to do the COIL with the contemporary African Canadian literature. And I think it had more to do with the topics that I was doing inside of the course. So we're talking about diaspora issues, we're talking about identity, cosmopolitanism, and all of these kinds of things that typically students would be able to gain or benefit from if they had the opportunity to travel, if they had the opportunity to engage with people outside of their immediate location. So this was, I think, was an opportunity for them, being in a course and having the opportunity to the experience of talking with people across different contexts. So I went back to my own students, sort of like at the beginning of the term, to prepare them, for this, and I asked them, and they sounded excited. They were, pleasantly excited. Oh, we're going to have, one of them said to me, we're going to actually have something in Brazil. So for my own part as an instructor, this is useful. Right, it's useful for me to be able to interact with instructors. I've learned a lot of new things, and one of it, honestly, is in terms of the use of IT. So I'm one of the people that started teaching in Canada around the time of COVID. So to some degree, I assumed I had very good experience with online teaching. I've used Zoom, I've used Teams, and a few other ones. But then the first meeting we had was on Google or something, and I'd never done anything formal on Google. And I kind of fumbled. I thought, okay, so this is a new one for me. And I think they also have the Padlet that you mentioned. It's also new for me. So I think it's to that degree, it's also helping me to build new IT skills, I would say, beyond what I'm normally used to. And then other than that, and I think you've touched on that a bit, Ilgin and Sonia, it was also for me about the question of access. How else would students from different locations have the opportunities that the COIL offers, right? And so having this space, or having that like a virtual space to exchange ideas with those instructors and for students to be able to key in, I mean, I think it's a win, especially because it's designed in such a way that it doesn't have any cost burden on the students. So and I think I've touched on this a bit. The Eugen has been very, very supportive. I can say that, I mean, other than even the emailing and the meetings and suggestions and encouragement, like you can do it, like you don't have to design everything all at once. One day I was sitting in my office, I was working, and someone actually knocked, and it was Eugen. He came down to my office to offer me this book about COIL and headphones. I was amazed, I was surprised, and I thought, okay, wow. So it's, for me, I think that's, before then, it's almost like you're talking to somebody. It's on the surface, it's online. But having seen him in person there also said something to me, like I didn't need to be that worried. There was always institutional support. Someone there is there to catch, like, oh, if you kind of fumble or you're not sure what you're doing. So in terms of the actual process, we haven't, I would say we are still in the process. So far, we've had a series of meetings and the online learning space that we're going to use. We've pinpointed, but I haven't had the opportunity to meet students. We've pinpointed, I and the instructors and the partners in the international office, I assume, in Brazil. We've also talked about the kinds of topics. We've discussed the types of, I would say, project assignments. One of the things I discovered, which for me was an affirmation, because again, we started with that idea of, I'm in the English department, we do a lot of writing, and that's how we typically assign work to students. But because of the nature of the courses I teach, I've been looking more and more for other real life contexts, like things, projects that they could do that would support them. So again, that's one thing I think that COIL has. So when I we started meeting with the international partners, they kind of affirmed that for me. And I remember, I think it was the second meeting, the professor there actually said, we're really wanting not to do more writing because students are always asked to write something, university students. So we eventually kind of settled on asking them to do a kind of presentation, group presentation between the students here and the students there. I have been worried about like how the actual process, we're going to do that, I think we're going to start next week actually, how the actual process is, because as instructors, we all know that sometimes you come up with these really beautiful ideas and then in practice it's a little different. But again, that's where I think it helps that you're not doing it alone. You have both the institutional support here and then you have the support from your university collaborators as well to kind of help with things that may not go so well. And then other than that, one final thing that I can say is, and maybe this is not just for students, but about instructors as well. I hear the concern about like having partnership overseas. In one of the meetings I was in today, a professor was actually talking about it, like having abroad, I've forgotten the actual name for it, but like those kind of courses where you design and students get to go abroad. I think that to some degree, and I'm saying this because of some of the discussions I've had with my own students, sometimes the perception of danger, I would say, or the fear of the unknown is actually more than the reality of it. And that's where I think that COIL comes in. I think having students to start very with these kinds of learning, actually seeing real people, right, which could be from any part of the world, makes a lot of difference. It helps them to move away from that frame of what they are seeing in the news or what politicians are saying to them or what the media is saying to them. In the space of the COIL, they're actually engaging with real people, they're engaging with other students. And I think to some degree that helps them to see those other contexts as real places, which sometimes we talk about this through the text, the novels that we are reading. These are real people. It's not just what we see on Google, on the internet. It's about embracing one another's humanity. And I think that's a win-win for any kind of learning situation. Thank you.
Okay, everyone, that's the presenters have all done their work, so they're wondering if there are any questions. Please feel free, I unmuted you. You can ask questions or you can type it in the chat and I will ask questions for you.
So, is there any limitation for instructor as well, because I'm not a faculty member, I'm just like an instructor, so I can use that. And another thing, is it just for course collaboration, or is there any possibility between like one unit in university to collaborate with another unit? I don't know how like you can do it without any type of COIL, but like I think if there is some sort of support or some sort of experience changing, that could be helpful. There's like I just recently noticed that there is like two unit at university. One is care and one is design hub, a student design hub. That so they wanted to do some sort of competition or hackathon type of things. And I'm joining them, like wanted to see if like there is like a potential that we can find people who has questions, like design question, and bring it to the student. Is that a possible thing to do? And if it is, like what COIL can do, or like internationalization office can help with.
Sonia, would you like to answer, or should I?
I can say that I'm also an instructor. I'm a course instructor now. I'm retired from administration at Memorial. You can implement these type of projects because in the end, it's your syllabus, and you are just using you're using collaborative online international learning to give different perspectives to your students, but it's still you doing the grading. So it's not impacting your syllabus. And it's impacting how you are personally delivering your program. In terms of I love the idea that you brought up about sort of co-curricular opportunities. I wonder if Catherine, if you're there, you could unmute. So Catherine is working with the many partners of Memorial, and she's a staff member in the internationalization office. And Catherine, I just wondered if you could address the numbers of partnerships that we have globally, and how someone might go about soliciting design questions for students to work on from some of our partners.
Sure. Hi, everyone. Sorry, I'm losing my voice a bit. So, but we actually currently have approximately 200 partnerships, and many of those partners are actively engaged in COIL projects already, and or looking for actively seeking COIL partnerships. So really just kind of reaching out to us to see if we know of anyone who's kind of actively looking, or as Ilgen mentioned about the COIL Connect memberships that we're a part of, where we can see what professors have pitched or faculty members have pitched kind of project ideas already and what they're kind of working on. And some are projects, some are research topics. So yeah, there's a variety of ways to go about engaging further.
Oh, okay. So how long does it for your partnership, and like just doing everything, like focusing on what topic to focus? How long does it take? Like how long have you working on?
I think we've been talking since the beginning of the year, but I met with the partners during the summer, if I'm correct. So I've been talking with Ilgen since the beginning, and he mentioned to me that there were some partners that he thought might be interested in one of the courses, but we eventually had our first meeting during the summer. So by the time we met, I think I had a syllabus, because that was one of my first concerns. I already had a syllabus. I started to worry about like how do I begin to change, and I'd already submitted it to the department actually. But like I mentioned, I don't think it's been a problem as such. So what we've been doing over the times we've been meeting was trying to figure out specific topics that they were interested in within the syllabus that I already created.
So I can give some information as well. What I did was I first, so some instructors like Chinelo have filled our survey or reached out to us, and I first had a meeting with them, introducing them about COIL, and I also created a form where they can share the courses that they might be interested in doing a COIL partnership with. And then I advertised those courses to our partner institutions or through COIL Connect, through those networks. And yeah, I mean, there were a lot of interests, particularly in Chinalo's courses, as well as some other gender courses, literature courses as well. And I mean, for example, you're doing business, I'm sure there would be a lot of interest in business, partnering for business courses as well. And yeah, they were very prompt, and it went really smooth, I think. I mean, in a couple months, I guess, you were able to sort out all the challenges.
I just wanted to bring your attention, there was a question in the chat, and just for everyone else, it was, is COIL designed to be a semester-long experience or something less? And then Catherine replied that COIL is generally presented as about 4 to 6 weeks, so not a full semester. I just wanted to bring that to the room in case somebody might have wanted to know the answer as well.
Yeah, thanks. And again, that of course varies from partnership to partnership. So as Sonia said, it's your syllabus. So, you know, and it's your project that you are kind of implementing. So, you know, a lot of the examples that we've looked at and the kind of the COIL, the way that COIL has it laid out is generally 4 to 6 weeks. But again, that's entirely up to you, and you design it with your partner.
Thank you, and there's another question here in the chat. What kind of assessments have been conducted of the COIL experience? Not necessarily the student experience, but at the admin and ROI levels.
We have this COIL interest survey, but it's, I mean, it might maybe roughly called an assessment, a pre-assessment of how people are interested in this kind of partnership, but
I think, Michael, that is it Notre Dame University? That's one of the leaders in the US on COIL. I went to one of their presentations a few years ago, and they did actually quite a bit of data collection on like the return on investment, which isn't, you know, an economic value per se, but it's how it is really, you know, how is the professor's experience and how is the student experience. At the administration level, it's they also had some research done, and if I think of the name of the person that does it, I'm sure you would know their name because they're quite active in NAFSA in the United States. But yes, there has been a fair amount of research done, and that's only what I know from the North American perspective. But in other languages, like in Portuguese and in Spanish and in French, there are also other types of administrative pieces that have been done just because COIL is used so much more in the Global South than in the North.
Sorry, I feel like maybe from the practitioner experience, at least partly, I could contribute something. I haven't done, I believe at the end of the program, there's a post kind of assessment, which might speak more to that question. But at this point, I know one of the major concerns I had ongoing was the labor for the instructor, like how much, whether it would involve a lot more work than one would typically put in for their class, because to some level, to some degree at that point, it felt to me like you'd be running 2 classes. But it hasn't, the more I meet with them, the more I meet, and this might not be true for all partners, But I think I'm kind of lucky in the sense that the people I'm working with currently already have a lot of experience doing this, even the particular instructor. But the more I meet with them, I found that a lot of it, they already have the learning space. So all I need to do is literally just put in my bio. I haven't had to redesign a lot of things, which again has been helpful. So I'm only going to be putting in the information I already have for my students here, for those other students. I mean, there are other things like privacy for myself, the instructor, or for students both ways. But I think the most important thing that I'm learning from it is how well you are able to collaborate or agree with the people that you are working with overseas. I think it makes a lot of difference to what the experience is for like you, or the return, whether it's even financial, whatever kind of returns that we're expecting from it.
And the comment is, that's interesting. COIL is more active in the global south more than the north. And thank you, Sonia, for your reply as well. That's before you spoke. Okay, so we do have a couple of more minutes. Are there any other questions?
I think I would love to see some examples, specifically if it's similar topics, gives me more like insight how to do it. And if there's like a repository type of like a website that you can go and see, oh, okay, like I can do, I don't know, IT in business, like there's examples that would be really helpful if you can share it, or if there's something there. I think seeing example gives it like a little more like, I don't know, practical way of like how I can reach it. Because like at first I was like, it might be too much time for me to like make a topic that makes sense, a lot of collaboration. So that is like a little like make you, okay, maybe not for this semester, maybe next year, maybe. So, yeah.
So we can meet and I can share
I will definitely
examples and other information with you.
Thank you.
I was just going to add Notre Dame and Farley Dickinson in the US. I do believe they have sort of charts with courses and then the name of the project and some more information that is even available publicly. But besides that, COIL itself, like that website, has a lot of richness. But I could just mention that Don Rubin's project that he ended up doing, so the sort of founder of COIL in the State University of New York, he was doing this far before we had WhatsApp or anything like this. And so he had his students start a film, and then they sent that film, by mail to that part of Eastern Europe where he had been. And the next students added in a new scene on top of that project and then sent it back. And he actually showed us and then, it carried on from there. And he showed us the results of that sort of collaborative filmmaking. And it was stunning. You could so see the cultural frameworks of the North American students compared with the Eastern European students. Absolutely. And I hope that it's somewhere online. I'm not sure I saw it in a live show, but yes, there's just so many possibilities for this type of project to move forward.
FIU and SUNY have good COIL resource pieces on their websites. This is from Catherine. Just for everyone online and people in the room. Okay. I want to thank you all on behalf of CITL. This will be recorded. This was recorded and will be put on YouTube. I'll notify everyone when it is on YouTube if you wanted to revisit. Wanted to say up next, if anyone is interested in another instructional series, TikTok projects, that's coming up on November 4th. And just a couple of other things. We have CITL Now, bi-monthly email bulletin. So if you haven't received it, it lets you know about these instructional resources or these instructional series, and anything that CITL actually does have. It is emailed. I'm not sure how it's emailed out, but it is going to be emailed, I think, to faculty and PCIs, as well as we have another workshop series, and it's writing across the curriculum. So if you're interested in that, you can join, I think, Melanie Doyle for this. And of course, last but not least, we do have sort of a portal for some resources. When Sanaz had said about resources, I thought about this as well. But again, I just want to thank everyone. Sonia, thank you for joining us through hybrid. And we have you just like you're in the room. And thank you guys. And everyone have a good day. Thanks.
Thank you.